Okay, very quickly I just want to show a gardening project I've been working on for a couple of years now. You can see there's lots of stuff growing here. We're at about September, October now, and I have several different things in here. There's some asparagus in the far corner you can't see. There's some various kinds of onions, some lettuce that's way too tall right over here. I don't think you can see it, but the lettuce has, once it started, pretty much kept going on its own. There's enough water in the ground, typically I guess to just keep them maintained, no problem. And it's mixed lettuce, so there's a couple of different things growing in there. There's also some random tomatoes in here. I put them in spots that were empty at the time because there were tons of extra tomato plants. And they're doing just fine with about 5 minutes of watering a night. There's actually, you can't see it, but there's 4 soaker hoses running through here on an automatic timer. Very convenient to have an automatic timer, and so they can do 5 minutes of water a night, and it doesn't cost too much on the water bill, probably $5 more extra, plus a little extra water for other plants I'm doing. These are trellises for the tall plants to go up through. Some interesting things have happened. The plants underneath it really don't get enough sun. The trellis will block it out. So you want to grow your plant out and then put in your trellis and put the plants, stretch the plants around it. I use it for these vining squashes. I've got a butternut squash on here. You can't see it. I'll do some zooms later. But there's a butternut squash there, and a couple more growing on there. They're a little late, maybe. I think this is the first time I've done butternut squash, but they seem a little late. They'll probably come out just fine, though. There's some white moss on almost all my vines. I kind of blame it on the acorn squash I grew this year. There's a massive acorn squash. You can barely see it, but it literally spans like 14 feet long. I've got lattice on the back side of the fence so the plants can grow up the back side of the fence. And despite what you would think about lack of sun, these guys do just fine with lack of sun. But this moss that's growing on all the leaves appears to be taking out the plant a little earlier than it was probably going to die. But acorn squash, if you're going to grow it, I've decided you must grow it by itself elsewhere, so that its giant leaves won't cover up your other plants. It will just take over. The one plant is growing from one little area, and it just stretches all over the place. It only needs one root section, and it just goes crazy. And it grew about 10 acorns this year. Probably in an ideal situation would do 15 or 20 acorn squash. There's also some green beans over here on some sticks. They're long dead, but you can do 2 seasons of the vining green beans. And there are some new ones coming up over here, just little tiny guys. And yeah, and there's another lattice here. This is a hoop house for when you get started at the beginning of the year. You put a hoop house over it. You can remove these hoops anytime you want and put plastic over the top to keep it warm in the earlier months when you're just starting your plants. Plant them under the hoop house. And so yeah, that's basic simplicity. There are some strawberries over here too. And next year I'm going to turn this into a massive wicking garden. Look up wicking stuff. I have wicking videos. Look up wicking. I'm gonna dig out the ground and put in a wicking system with water that comes off my roof, which I'll show in another video too.